Hey guys, welcome to the Dialed In podcast. This is the low equity edition. Today we're joined by 3 calling guests. We're also joined by the Don Walker, DFW Don Walker. As always, we are sponsored by RocketBotLeads.ai, where you can get leads quicker than everybody else from the data aggregators. We get day one data from RocketBot Leads. If you want to use their services, we have a coupon code down below to get 20% off your first month. Let's just dive right in. We have a lot of phone calls to make. We have 3 callers today. So let's start with ladies first. Myelani, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Myelani. I'm in Indian Land, South Carolina. I've been interested in real estate for a very long time. I've made calls before, took some time out and started making calls again, mostly wholesaling, in the wholesaling direction, so nothing SubTo or creative. So yeah, it's on
Awesome.
today.
Awesome. We are excited that you're here. Thank you so much. Julio, tell us about yourself. Where are you from?
Hey, I'm from Napa Valley. I live in American Canyon, so it's about 45 minutes away from San Francisco. And so I am a agent here in California. I've been in SubTo a little under a year, and also in Gator for a few months. So yeah, just excited to challenge myself. I've been able to make phone calls before and talk to several agents. I definitely need the help with becoming a little bit closer. So I appreciate you saying to challenge ourselves and put ourselves on the cliff. So yeah, excited to be here and grow.
Well, so much for joining us. I love that you guys are both from kind of cool towns. You're from American, what was
Canyon.
it?
American Canyon.
And Myelani, you're from Indian country.
Indian Land.
Indian land. Yeah, very cool. Julio, I also love that you're an agent. So I'm curious to get your perspective as we make these calls to agents, because you have that unique perspective. So that's really cool today. Rudy, tell us about yourself.
Hi, my name is Rudy. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. I've been into real estate for about 6.5, 7 years. I haven't really done any investor deals. I've bought personal properties. I got 2 boys. Just eager to kind of learn this whole process and close a few deals.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining. It's a really great segue to Dawn Walker, who has more than 2 boys. She has lots of boys out there.
Oh my gosh, stop it.
Dawn, my partner, my work wife, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Dawn. I'm from DFW. I've been doing real estate almost, 3 years now. And, it took me a year to get my first deal. And so I'm trying to help other people. We're trying to help other people get to that a little bit faster, from doing the deals that we've done to now kind of passing that knowledge along and hopefully helping other people along the way.
Thank you, Dawn. Julio, before we got started, you asked a great question. I forget exactly what it was. Would you mind asking that again? I thought that it was super valuable to do it on a recording for everyone.
Yeah. So the question I asked was if we want to focus on the 4 pillars. So talking about motivation, timeline, price, and condition. So,
Dawn, what are your thoughts?
I mean, the answer to that is obviously yes, but it's not so much in the regard that you have to go step by step by step. You can get the majority of those for anything that's listed, right? Which ones can you get? Which ones are obvious and clear right from the bat?
Mm-hmm.
You know the price.
So you know the price. You know
the condition,
mm-hmm.
right? You know the timeline, right? Because if they're listed, then usually there's how long of a listing, right? It could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be 9, it could be a year. So we know that the timeline is somewhere in there, right? What is it that we don't know? The motivation for it, right? So really, that's what we're trying to gather. We're not trying to beat a dead horse and talk to the agent, because Julio, if I called you and I said, hey, Julio, how's things going with this listing? I see you have this property on 123 Main Street. What's the price? Why are you listed there? It would just get so annoying, because you're like, well, the price is right there. We're talking about things that you already know. So what more can, you tell me that I would want to know? And it's going to be a little bit different on your end because from an agent's perspective, it's like, why would people want to know motivation, right? That would probably jar you a little bit. But we're not just going up and asking, hey, what's your seller's motivation? We're not doing that. We're just trying to get the story. Because every house, as you know, has a story. Every seller has a story of why they're selling. And there's going to be some agents that may be on one end of the spectrum where they're really aggressive and like, well, why does that matter to you? What's important about that? That's private. That's my client's information. Totally get that. I'm not here to be combative with it, right? But on the other end, knowing that could help us figure out what the best solution could be, or an option for the seller that the agent may not have known. So it really depends on how you want to ask those questions. And it takes time. It takes practice. It takes, going through this process a little bit for you to understand how to approach those different types of agents or calls. It doesn't happen overnight, but it could be something that you learn along the way. I'm still learning. Mike's still learning. So yes, we want to hit those 4 pillars, but most of them we already know for a property that's listed, right? The one that we're truly trying to get to is the motivation.
Right. One thing I love to do, Julio, is kind of gamify all of this for myself, because for me, this is just me, calling isn't really my favorite thing to do. I love the result that I get from it, but I don't love the idea. Like, I don't wake up and I go, oh my gosh, I'm jumping out of bed to go make that first phone call. That's just not me personally. So what I like to do is gamify it as much as I possibly can. So to Don's point, there are 3 pillars that you already know for the most part. Conditions kind of questionable, you're going to see the pictures. You can get a good idea of what it looks like. You don't really know what's behind some walls or whatever. But motivation's a big thing. So what I do sometimes is I play a game with myself. Can I get the seller's motivation without directly asking the agent what their motivation is? It's sort of like if I go to you as the listing agent and I go, Julio, why are your sellers selling? To Don's point, you're going to say, go pound sand. It doesn't matter, right? But if I say something like, this looks like a really beautiful home. It also looks like the sellers just moved into it. What happened? Just in the course of conversation, then what's going to happen is the agent's probably going to come back and say, well, they have to move for X, Y, and Z reason, or whatever it is. I like to play that game personally because it keeps things interesting for me. So it's not the same as direct to seller in the sense that you are jumping in and have to learn all the 4 pillars, but really what you're doing with the 4 pillars is you're using the motivation against the seller. That's really what direct to seller is, right? You're trying to find the motivation. Hey, how can I help this seller? But then also in the course of negotiation, go back and say, hey, look, I know you have to move today. This is my price if you have to move today. It might change if you have to move 6 months from now, for example. So this is much more business minded, and you obviously have to work through an agent to get the answer. So gamify it, have fun with it. Okay. The whole idea of these phone calls is to see, is there interest from the seller in exploring this option? Even if there isn't, what I like to do is tell them how the process can go or how it can benefit both them and the seller. And remember, one thing we always want to stress to an agent, Julio, as the agent, what are one of the top 2 things you're most concerned about in any transaction? And it's not the seller's livelihood or what their next step is. It is what?
Well, for me, it's making sure that I take care of my client, that make sure that they're safe, that they're not that I'm not getting them into a bad deal, into a bad situation.
Totally. It's always number 1, right? For agents, what's the second one? What are you most concerned about in a transaction? And it's a selfish thing. Commission, right? Yeah. You want to make sure you're not working for nothing.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we got to put food on the table.
Exactly. Right. So what we always want to do is say, if you guys choose to go this route, we're going to make sure that your commission's paid, right? That's like the carrot.
Okay.
So that's the carrot. And then what we do is we go into the benefits for the seller. So great question. I love that, because direct to agent is very different than direct to seller, and the 4 pillars is the primary reason why it's different. Great question.
And one thing I want you guys to keep in mind as you make these calls, okay, and I know Rudy's a little nervous about this already, okay, you're not here to close a deal right now, right? That's not the aim. So don't worry about that, Rudy. Right now, today is not the day to close the deal. It's not going to happen, okay? So I want you to get that out of your mind. When you hear the term closer, okay, that takes a long time of follow-up, right? So we're just doing day one. This is day one of a phone call of a relationship, okay? So you're not already on day 20 or day 30. You got a little bit of time and a little bit of nurturing that's going to happen, okay? So don't panic. Don't think that you got to go from, holy crap, I'm just started making calls, now I got to be a closer. No, you don't. That comes later, right? But eventually, you're going to turn into your own closer. It's going to be messy. It's going to be terrible. You're not going to say the right thing. You're going to get hung up on, right? You're going to lose contracts. That's inevitable, but that's progression. You have to go through those things in order to get to the point you want to go to, right? In order to get to the contract, get to the closed deal. So right now, we're at the beginning. We're at the fun part. So have fun with it. Don't freak out about what is to come. Just worry about right now. Deal, Rudy?
Okay.
All right.
Fail forward. That's what we should have
right.
called today, is just fail forward.
Yep.
All right, guys. So start making the phone calls. Make the phone calls on your cell phone. Mute the Zoom. Don and I are going to be chatting about whatever we chat about. And when you guys do get on a phone call with an agent, unmute yourself. And we'll all listen and provide feedback as we go forward today. So thanks so much for joining. Good luck.
And don't unmute if someone's already unmuted, by the way. Just keep that in mind. We don't need 2 phone calls happening at the same time, because then that's going to confuse everybody. So if you have yourself unmuted, then just make sure that you quickly check before you unmute yourself if someone else isn't. But you got
this.
this.
Do you want us to make one call at a time? Wait for each individual to make a call, or?
Nope.
This is the 3 of you. Just start dialing. First one to get on the phone, unmute.
And then we'll shut up when you unmute.
That's right. Dawn, so our mastermind group last Friday,
Mm-hmm.
what did you take anything away from? First of all, I love getting together with everyone. That's super, super fun.
Mm-hmm.
Did you take anything away from that conversation that either you want to implement this week, or anything that kind of surprised you at all from last week's call?
Like you said, I think I was just so happy to be back in the group with everybody and see everybody and have that familiarity. It was good. It felt really nice to just be there and hear what everybody's up to. And I think one thing I took away was there was one of us that finally decided to slow things down but not necessarily take his foot off the gas, right? So he's trying to be more mindful with himself, right? Work on his self and his self-development, his mindset. And I thought that was awesome, because not that I'd never expected of him, but it's more of, okay, good. I'm glad he's doing something for himself. And I think when we get in the midst of real estate and investing, and, we forget how important it is to actually take some time for yourself and to recharge, because it's real easy to just work yourself off a cliff, right? To just put yourself into the ground because you are grinding and grinding and grinding, but maybe you're not being as efficient as you thought. And sometimes you find out a little too late and you really have to take some time to think. But I was really happy that he decided to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. First of all, I love getting together with that group on Friday. I love our sort of like mini SubTo family. And I'm very much looking forward to Squad Up so we can get together in person. But I think that getting together with that group of people and just hearing about what's going on inspires so much. I mean, it's unfortunate that we do it on Fridays, quite frankly, because we go into the weekend, and even though I work on Saturday and Sunday and as much as I possibly can, it's not the same as working on a Monday, and hearing the experience of Carly or Myron or Jose, Angie and Don, it's just fun. We're all doing different things.
Please. And I think that's, like you said, that's the most exciting part, is seeing that everybody is.
Quick question. Do we leave a voicemail with the agent if they don't answer?
If you want to. These are your leads. Feel free to use them as however you want to use them.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
What I like to do sometimes too is, if instead of a voicemail, sometimes I'll just send them a text, but I think it's your call on what you want to do with it.
Okay.
And if you're doing it from your cell phone too, Julio, what I like to do is just copy and paste the text message I send, just so you can send it really quickly the next time.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
How's your weekend, Don?
It was good. It was good. What about you? What did you do?
We ran the Austin meetup here on Saturday.
Yeah.
That was good. Power hour.
How'd that go?
It was good. It was good. It was a really good group of people. Very cool office that we worked out of. It was great. And then I went over and met with LaMichael Curry and Andy Cairns at one of LaMichael's flips, which was a lot of fun. I took Riley, my son, there. And I enticed him by saying, hey, let's go shoot the house with the drone, which is his new toy. So it was fun. Then we went over to Zilker, scared some people over there with the drone.
Oh, man. Did the drone fall on anybody?
No, the technology in these things, it's incredible. It's not, Sadie flies it herself.
Well, I mean, Sadie is Sadie.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. I thought she'd crash it.
Oh, I meant that as a compliment. Like, Sadie's determined, and she's going to figure it out.
Yep. Yeah. No, it was great. It was fun. And then Andy and his wife came over last night for dinner with their kids. Having all 5 kids in my house, it was like the loudest my house has ever been.
I bet. It was a good time, though.
It was a good time. Have you seen the new HEB queso things? I think we've talked about. Have we talked about the queso?
New?
Well, it's new. It's new to me. It's like the stuff you bring at home and you put it in your oven.
How are you?
I'm good. My name is Julio Llamas. I was calling on your property, 17748. Is it Dracena Court Circle? Dracena Circle in Fort Myers?
Oh, yes. One of my agents, Devin, is actually listing that. I'm a member of their board, so he entered it under mine. Can I give you his direct cell phone number?
Yes, please. That'd be great.
Okay, perfect. Area
561
634
634
0647.
0647. And I'm sorry, was that Devin?
Devin Hill, yep.
Devin Hill. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. I will give him a call.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
I mean, it was a little bit of a rough weekend for me. My Longhorns, they lost.
I know.
It's okay though. Forever Longhorn. Oh.
It's how they lost though that I don't love.
Oh, man. Well, what do you mean by that?
Mistakes. Just mistake after mistake after mistake.
Yeah, can't deny that. Can't deny that.
No. Oh well, there's always next year for UT. That's what that seems to be so common phrase every single year. Next year.
Yeah, and what's the saying for UCLA? UCL, you never?
No, we never.
Yeah, you never.
Look, I can't talk. I know.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
We're an academic school, Don. We're not an athletic school, okay?
Oh, that's rough. That's rough.
We care about grades.
That's rough. Oh man, it'd be all
But
right.
when I was playing there, the academic support was incredible. It was like if you're an athlete and you're failing, there's something wrong with you. Because you would go into these tutoring sessions and they'd be like, okay, here are the answers to the test. Study these. It's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah. That was fun.
So what are we focused on this week?
We are focused on, well, this is really, I mean, you were out sick last week, so this is really the first week that we're implementing all of our plans for 2025, right? This is like go, go, go. So 2025 looks like for us, we are still going to be doing some acquisition of low equity stuff. And so hopefully Julio and Myelani and Rudy can generate some leads for us. We're always looking for deals in Texas, right? So anything you come across in Texas would be amazing for us to buy. And we're also doing lots of lending in 2025 too, right?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we want to dabble in next. We want to try and get our feet wet and jump all the way in and then figure it out later.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not to say that we don't have some understanding of what we're doing. It's just more of putting a lot of our focus back into something different, right? Something new. And
Is this Tim?
Oh,
Yeah.
Hi.
who is this?
My name is Rudy.
I'm calling about
Looks like we had two competing phone calls.
it's like right at the same time. It was close.
Let's let them focus here, see if we can get them on the screen.
No, I'm off the phone already.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you both just answered the phone at the same time.
How cool is this system, by the way?
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
You having fun with the controls over there, getting to play around with it?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
What do you think the hardest part, if you can remember, when you first started making calls, what was the hardest part? What was that feeling you kept getting?
Well, picking up the phone is the hardest part by far.
Yeah.
But after that, let's see if we can get Myelani on.
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
They'll unmute when they have something.
I think the hardest part was until you actually go through a transaction, you don't really know what it looks like or feels like, right? And so you can't confidently talk about it until you've actually done it.
Yeah.
So I think going through my first transaction added so much value to my phone calls after that I went into those phone calls after with so much more confidence because it wasn't this hypothetical in my head that I was just taught, right?
Yeah.
This was, okay, I've done it. Now I know exactly what it is.
Yeah. And how to do it.
Yep.
At least one way of how to do it, right?
Yeah. And all the mistakes that came along with it, right?
A lot of mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah. What about for you?
I think it's a little bit of the same, but what really bothered me was the unknown. It's like, okay, I know you're telling me to go make a phone call and I just need this, this, and this, right? but I couldn't see past what it was supposed to look like after. And not that I needed to know, every little detail. It was more of, all right, I know the end product, but it still was so vague that by not knowing what to expect or really truly what came next, like you could really work it out in your mind. Like, okay, this is the first step. This is the next step. This is the 20th step, 25th, 30th. And then finally you get to the deal. But getting past step 5 was the hardest part, right? It's picking up the phone, dialing the number, actually getting on the phone with somebody. That was really difficult. And then when you actually got them on the phone, it was not freezing. It was actually going through with what you needed to with confidence that you didn't have because you hadn't been through it yet. And then on top of that, when they said yes, at some point when they said yes, it's like everything you knew just disappeared. You didn't know how to act. You didn't know what to say. You didn't know what to do. And so then all of a sudden you become like a kindergartner again, and you're trying to figure this out. And like, why do I not know what to do? I've spent months going over this process in my mind. And then now when something positive happens, I lose my head.
But I think every one of those stages too has a different emotion tied to it, right?
Oh, for sure.
It's like fear of picking up the phone, uncertainty when you're actually on the phone with somebody because you haven't done it yet. And you kind of feel like an idiot, right? You're like, how do I make this all work?
Definitely just shoot it over to me, then we could kind of go from there. You never know exactly what somebody's going to take into your offering.
Okay. So, okay, awesome. And then, so in regards to, because I see that she's asking 315. So just wondering, like, again, and I'm not sure if like what her mortgage is like, and then if, if there's a possibility that she would be interested in something, obviously, like I said, if cash would be a lot lower, but in regards to like maybe a creative situation, where, we can take over her mortgage or.
Yeah, no, she's not looking for anything like that, man. Those deals are pretty tough to come by nowadays. So many sellers are screwed over, and those kind of deals are pretty tough nowadays.
Yeah, because I mean,
Yes,
no, go ahead. Sorry, I actually cut you off.
Oh, go ahead, buddy. You're fine.
Yeah. No, so I was saying, we definitely would want to protect the seller. That's the way that we want to make sure that we protect the seller at all times, and while we do it, we also want to make sure that we compensate you for your time. So, so I'd be more than happy to, to run my numbers and then see if, if it's something that, would be attractive to the seller.
I totally understand. But I definitely don't want you to waste your time. She's not looking for anything such as seller finance, you take over mortgages and all that kind of stuff. You ran out for investment. That's not what she's looking for.
Okay.
She's looking to sell. So if that's not the current situation you're in, or feel like this property doesn't what you're investing in, then I totally understand. But if you feel like it is, make an offer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, definitely. I definitely want to, consider the options. And again, it may not be for your seller, but definitely would love to keep in contact with you and see if keep in touch and So now aside from that, since I do invest in properties, do you have any other properties that would be off market or need some potential work?
Yeah, but so based on the strategy that you're looking for, not too much, man. There's not too many sellers that really do that nowadays anymore.
Okay.
That's becoming more of a niche. Say market. For most sellers nowadays, they're typically looking for their money so either they can invest or purchase their next property, or they're looking to sell and retire down here in Florida.
Okay.
So if someone's looking to invest themselves, they're looking to get the cash, they're looking to sell their purchase so they can purchase their new home.
Mm-hmm.
They need to net a certain amount of cash, to be able to purchase and get approved for the next house. Then if it's somebody that's older, man, these kind of strategies are too scary for them.
So okay, David. So then let me ask you this. So then how can we work together in the future?
I mean, the best way is, if I come across something, I'm saying I'll let you know.
Okay.
You know, I mean, there are always small niches. Sometimes if I come across it, if I don't come across it, man, I wish you the best luck.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely, you know, I'll keep your number, you know, I'll reach out. And like I said, you know, if circumstances change, you know, for some reason, you know, I mean, I'd love to be able to help you and your seller with this property. So.
All right, boss. Appreciate it, man. You take care. Have a blessed evening.
All right, man. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
All right, guys, let's dissect that call. Good job, Julio, by the way. Dawn, let's go to you first. What are your thoughts?
Great job on the call. Great job. I think
Thank
you
you.
did awesome. Because when he said no, you dove a little bit just to try to see how far you could go, which was good. And he straight up told you, hey, my seller's not into it, right? And you listened, right? And then you pivoted. That was the smart thing to do in that call. You really, that's what we're trying to accomplish, is not necessarily trying to, you know, really dig so much that we convince the agent or the seller that this is the best option. It's more of, I want to be this solution if something changes. However, how can we continue to work together? I want a relationship with this agent because maybe there's something that comes down the line that you want, right? Or that you're interested in, or that you have a buyer for, that you can go back to Devin and say, hey, this one's not for me, but I actually have a partner that's looking to invest themselves. Let me see if they're interested. Let's see if we can get this deal done, right?
Okay.
Or if it's something that you want. But I think you did really well in that call in pivoting, because that's really 99% of the time, that's what we're trying to do, is pivot if we can. And if we can get the deal, awesome. But really, it's 99% of pivoting and how we can get that relationship to work. So I think you did an awesome job with that.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't hear the intro, Julio. Did you introduce yourself as you're also an agent or an investor, or just someone calling to buy that specific property?
I had called him because I always do double dial. So I double dialed, and then he texted right away that he was with a client. And so he called, and then I fumbled in trying to get it to unmute. So that's why you didn't hear the intro.
No worries. I always tell people, especially if they're agents, to leverage that as much as possible, right? It's a different conversation if an agent's having a conversation with another agent, even if it's not in the same state.
Okay.
It's different if I'm calling as an investor saying, hey, I'm an investor. Let me talk to you, Mr. and Mrs. Agent. They don't respect me the same way that they would respect me if I were an agent.
Okay.
So, Myelani, tell me what you thought about Julio's call.
I was taking notes. I thought it was amazing, and like Don said, the pivot was really good. I hadn't thought that far about prolonging the relationship with the agent beyond this call. Especially once they say no, it kind of just you feel like a deer in headlights when they say no, because it's like, oh, okay, then what do I do now? But the way it was so smooth, the way he just kind of pivoted and like. It didn't faze him. He just kind of went on into, like, hey, that's fine. I accept it. However, how can we, move forward and help each other in the future? I really appreciated that.
Thank you.
I agree. Rudy, let's talk about guts for a second here with relation to these sorts of calls. So Don and I were talking as you guys were calling, and we were talking about the hardest part of these phone calls, or the hardest part of just this process in general, right? And there are all these little hurdles that you have to get past. The first one, just picking up the phone, that takes guts, right? Not everyone's going to do that. What's crazy is that there are 3 of you guys here calling right now. There are 1,000 other people who wouldn't do the same thing. So good on you guys. The next part of it, which I actually think takes a lot of guts, and you put yourself in a phase of discomfort, is prolonging the conversation, right? Because typically an agent's like, hey, I got to go. Well, hold on a second. Let's back up. Let's slow this down. So Rudy, what other questions do you think Julio could ask, or what questions do you ask to prolong the conversation?
Usually, if they say that the seller's not interested, or after I ask if they're interested in cash, and they say yeah, or if they say no, and then they trying to tell me like, well, the seller don't want to do creative financing, and I usually say, well, the seller's not interested in getting a full price offer, right? And then that kind of draws them back into full price, even if they trying to get full price anyway. But I always throw that out there like, well, the seller. So you're saying the seller doesn't want a full price offer because that's what I'm offering, right? Like if they said, like he said, like, oh well, when he got to talking about buying another house or anything that they're trying to do next after this house, I kind of try to pivot and see if I can. Okay, so they want to buy another house. How much do they need? I don't need to get the house for free. How much do they need to get another house? I kind of go that route.
I think a great way to address that as well is using a third-party story.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me back up because there are a few things that I want to mention here about that phone call. Julio, one thing that I like to do on my phone calls, especially if they say no, is ask the agent if they've done a transaction like this before. That agent specifically was coming off as if he knew the market and he knew his buyers and his sellers. Okay. He wanted to be the authority, right? And so you have to placate that a little bit, right? Hey, sounds like you're the guy to talk to in this market. Just out of curiosity, have you ever done a transaction like that before? What that question, or I guess the answer is really going to tell you is a lot. It's going to tell you, do they know what they're talking about? And if so, how you can kind of pivot the conversation to your advantage. So let's say, for example, that agent does not have experience in doing these types of transactions. What I would do is just say, hey, this is all that I do very quickly. Let me just kind of tell you how this process works and how it might benefit a seller of yours down the road, right? Take this deal off the table, no pressure, remove it as much as possible, right? So I would say something like, look, this is the only type of transaction that I do. This is kind of what we specialize in. And what we're able to do is really give the sellers the exact amount that they would typically walk away with a traditional sale, because we're paying your side of the commission. We're paying all the closing costs. We can close on the seller's timeline, right? You're kind of layering the value add. And then kind of see where the agent stands, right? So I always like to ask the question of, have you ever done a transaction like this before? If they have, ask the question, how did that go for you and the seller? I'm just kind of curious. It's going to give you more info, right? It's going to prolong the conversation even more. Okay. So the third party story, the objection there from the agent was, most of the sellers that I work with have to go buy another house somewhere else, right? Now, depending on the type of loan that this house has, and the data sheet that you guys have, it says what type of loan it has, also the mortgage balance, all that stuff. You guys can figure out how they can possibly purchase their next home, right? If it's a VA loan, for example, they might have some sort of secondary entitlement, right, that they could possibly use. If it's an FHA, maybe they can use another FHA loan depending on where they're moving to, right? Typically, the low equity homes that we're calling on are either VA or FHA. For the most part, it's probably 80 to 90% VA and FHA, which means very low down payment. And they've probably purchased the home in the last 2 to 3 or 4 years, right? They haven't had the time yet for their equity position to increase. So what I like to do in this situation is use a third-party story. We just closed this deal down the street in San Antonio where the seller was concerned about the same exact thing. It looks like this loan was purchased with the VA loan. Is there any sort of secondary entitlement that the seller has? Do you have any idea? And what's going to happen, Don? What do you think the agent's going to say?
I don't know.
They're going to say, I don't know, right? Because a lot of agents don't go down this path of conversation with their sellers. They don't know yet, right? Assume because of what we do is non-traditional. Non-traditional doesn't mean bad or illegal or whatever. It just means not typical, right? So agents don't know this. They don't have this education. So it's our job to educate them and properly communicate it if they can to their clients. That's our job and our job only. Now, if they come back and they want to sell or If we want to buy it, then that could be a really good deal for everyone involved. But our job is to educate and educate only. So use that third-party story to say, this seller had the same objection. This is what we were able to do. They were going to walk away with about $10,000 at the asking price that they were asking based on the mortgage amount that they currently have anyway. So we were able to give them that amount, and they were able to put that towards a home that they were looking to purchase down the road, or however you want to tell that story, right? Because the reality here is that these are low equity leads. It means that they're not walking away with a ton of money, right? Just by definition. And so you can actually see that too on the spreadsheet, right? The last three columns, equity is a dollar amount, and then net with a traditional sale. And the last column is exactly what they would walk away with, taking out closing costs and commission. So you can also reference that too, right? It looks like the sellers are walking away with about $8,000. Are my numbers right? They're gonna be like, what? How do you know that? Without saying it, by the way. They won't say it, but
yeah, don't do that. There's one thing in the call that Julio, and I don't know if anybody else picked up on it, but I'm curious if anybody did. There's one thing in the phone call that I wish you would have capitalized on a little bit more, but again, that comes with time and practice. It's just, I hear those words, I'm like, ooh, I'm excited. Now, it was towards the end of the call. So was there anything in there that you guys heard towards the end of the call that might have got you interested in what Devin was saying about others? What was it, Julio?
For me, I noticed that he went to start talking about niches, and other people are trying to buy in these strategies, and whether it's for investing or moving to full, so it was focusing on niches.
Mm-hmm. Rudy, but what about you?
I heard him say that if he runs into those type deals before, that he'll get back in contact with her.
Yeah, that's a good one. Myelani, did you hear anything?
I'm trying to play it back in my head because he seemed like he was trying to get off the phone, but he kind of came back again, and he just started talking about what the market was like, and but no specific words that I can think of that you're thinking about.
Okay, so you guys were all like close, right? You're circling around it, and both had great ideas. However, the one thing that he said was other clients want to invest themselves or buy properties themselves. The way that I would have jumped on that would have been, oh, great. Well, what are they looking for? I may have something for them. How can I get them to invest in another property? What are they looking to invest in? Let's have that conversation. Let's forget the house right now. Let's talk about what other clients you have. Not that I need to know who they are, just what they want. Because then that opens the door for you as a resource to this agent. Now you're opening the opportunity for him to come to you for opportunities you may come across. So they can invest, so they can put their money into something, right? I don't care. He talked about niches, and he talked about the market. He wanted to sound smart, and he probably is. He sounded like a really smart guy. I don't care about that as much, right? What I did care about is that he has a lot of other clients that he works with that potentially want to invest. Well, my ears just go right straight up. And I'm like, that's who I need to be talking to. Because what could that turn into, Rudy? When you hear that, what are some options that could turn into for you?
That
Go ahead, Julio.
I was going to say, for me, that's like additional buyers list.
Additional buyers list, yep. Mm-hmm. What else?
When they're buying, 9 out of 10 times they're selling.
Okay, perfect. Also, if they have money to invest, what does that mean for you? That means you have money, potentially, that you can use to invest, right?
PML.
Got a PML. So you see how little tidbits of information can really be important. It's not necessarily about the house that you called about. It's the relationship that it turns into on the phone. So It's never about the house. On the seller side and on our side, it's really never about the house. It's really about what can you get done? What relationships can you create? How can you solve a problem?
I'll mention one thing and then we'll get back on the phone here too. But imagine having the conversation with that agent and saying, what types of deals are your investors looking for? Typically, when an agent says investors, they're looking for what types of properties? Usually rentals, right?
Rentals,
Usually.
yeah.
Okay.
Now, typically, how is an investor buying a rental property?
Cash.
Yeah.
Cash, or they're using conventional loans, right? They're using an investor type of rental loans and having to put 20% plus down and getting higher rate, right?
Mm-hmm.
That agent said, hey, what if I could give your clients, the people who are looking for rentals, a better deal than what they're used to? They're going to say, well, what do you mean, right? That gives you an opportunity to kind of come back and say, well, I come across these deals all the time that I buy for myself, but there are also a lot that I can't buy for myself where I'm only having to put 10, 12% down, but I'm getting 4% rates. Do you think that would be appealing to your clients?
You know how fast you would have kept him on the phone, Julio? with that?
Yeah.
You know, and look, do you need to unload that in the first call? No. But it's more of, he's dangling a carrot and you're dangling a carrot. And it's who's going to bite first, right?
Right.
Who needs what right now? And that's not that we're trying to play games, right? But it's more of, each of you have resources. You just need to figure out how to use them together. That's it.
Okay.
So when you're on these phone calls, if it's a no about the house you're calling on, fine. Pivot into something else. And then if it works, great. If it doesn't, no problem. No hard feelings, no time really lost, because that took you, 5-10 minutes? Go on to the next one. Because as you build these Rolodex of individuals that you talk to, these agents, you only need a handful of really good relationships with agents to be successful. Even more so, like, are you going to be a 7-figure person with just 5? Probably not.
No.
But will it get the ball rolling and will it get you to where you need to go? Yes, absolutely. You both and all can make money. So it's just about, okay, how do I solve a problem and how can I help somebody else? When you go into a phone call that way, it makes them a lot easier to make. So keep your ears open. Don't get so focused on you and your nerves. And then just listen. Listen to the information they're giving you. And then pivot off of that.
Okay.
You got this,
Great
guys.
advice. Let's get on at least one more phone call before we head on out here. So get back on the phone. Let's see if we can get a hold of somebody. Make sure, Myelani, you were on the phone with someone, weren't you?
Yeah, I think Rudy and I got on the call. We unmuted at the same time, so I quickly muted because, So I managed to speak to. I did manage to speak to someone. And
you
she
stay
started
here, by the
talking.
way. Sorry, Myelani, sorry to interrupt you. Julio, Rudy, make phone calls. Let's talk to Myelani really quickly about the call that she had.
Oh, okay.
Tell us about it.
So it was a house in Utah. I was kind of struggling, technology, inept. I was struggling to get the address onto Zillow. So as I was talking to her, she was telling me about, like the condition of the property. It's an amazing property, actually, beautiful townhome. And she said it's fully updated. She was talking about how, all the different aspects of the property, basically. But she did say that they'd received an offer over the weekend. The Zella hadn't taken that offer. They're still open to more. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I told her that, with regards to a cash offer probably won't be ideal in the situation. So I asked about the potential for a creative offer and if they'd received any like that. And she said at this point she doesn't think they'd really be interested. But she said, just put it in writing. But at that point, I moved back, just because I'd finally found the property online and just kind of said, okay, so asked about what their motivation was, like why, with such a nice property, why they were looking to sell. And she was like, well, they're trying to move. And I said, where are they moving to? Are they moving out of town or anything? And she said, no, they're moving. They're moving locally. I asked if they had already bought the property or they were relying on the proceeds from this one to buy that one. She said yes. So, and then what else happened? And she
Great
said there's still
questions,
this.
by the way. That's a really good question.
So they were still, she said, they're still living in the property right now. And so I asked her if, I didn't have her email address, with regards to, because she mentioned the offer. So I said, could you share your email address with me? Because I only had her telephone number. So she sent it as a text. So I said to her, though a cash offer probably won't be ideal, I will send you 2 offers, one cash and, then the alternative, and, just to kind of give her an idea of why the alternative may actually be of more interest to the seller.
You have such an advantage, like just a natural advantage. Do you know what I'm referring to, Don?
Yeah.
Okay, go. I'm curious what you think I'm thinking.
You have a really good ease of conversation. You make people feel very comfortable and safe on the phone. I don't know if it's the accent or what, but the way that you speak and the way that you are talking about the conversation, I already know everything about the conversation. I know the tone of the conversation. I know how the agent felt, even though I wasn't on the call. So the way that you're carrying yourself is really, really good. Because you're confident. Even though you don't feel like you are, you sound very confident. And that's hard to do. So I think you're very much so on the right track. I think you just need to believe in yourself a little bit more, because the way that you are asking questions and the type of questions you're asking are spot on. They're exactly what you need to do and how you need to hold yourself in the conversation. On top of that, the follow-up that you do already. I mean, you are miles and miles above where you think you are. So give yourself some credit.
Oh,
Don, you picked up perfectly on exactly what I was going to say. I could listen to you read a phone book. It's so soothing and calming, and it does come off as a confident voice on the other end. And when you guys were calling, Don and I were talking about, again, we kind of mentioned this, the challenges that we first had when we first started making phone calls. For a lot of people, it's the confidence, right? If you haven't done a deal, how can you speak from a level of security, right? And so, you, for example, the only thing that any of us have when we get on the phone with somebody is the way that we present ourselves initially. And my initial reaction to you, just mine, I think it's the same for Dawn, is this woman is intelligent. She speaks very well. She's confident. The way that you enunciate and speak is so valuable. So incredibly valuable. So again, I could listen to you read whatever it is all day long. Now, at this point, I think it's just the experience of having these sorts of phone calls. So you're asking the questions that suit your personality best, and then also going through the experience so you can speak from a level of confidence as opposed to, I'm still trying to do this.
It's repetition. That's all you need to give yourself the confidence that you need. Doesn't mean that the confidence that you're giving to us, like showing to us, doesn't translate. Like, we see the confidence up here, but you feel down here in the confidence, right? Inside. Yeah. So I want you to know that it just takes repetition for you to get from this point here up here to what you're showing, right? Eventually they'll catch up with each other, but don't stop what you're doing, right? Don't change anything. Don't feel like you have to. You're doing everything right. Trust your instinct, but just do more repetition. And then I think that confidence will then start to even out, and you'll feel a lot better about it. You just got to keep doing it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Julio, Rudy, any luck on phone calls?
Good dialing.
Okay. So we'll give you guys a couple more minutes. Hopefully we can get on a phone call. Okay. Yeah, I wish I sound like you, Myelani, very much.
I think, what did my grandmother, I asked her once where we were from, because I had no idea. I was probably like 12. It's like, I don't know how that works. But I was like, Grandma, where are we from? She goes,
I'm doing great. I was calling about the property on 2700 Terra Oasis.
Okay, how can I help you, sir?
Is that property still available?
It is.
Okay. Could you want to tell me a little about it, or?
Are you a buyer or agent, or?
I'm an investor.
Okay, what I can do is I can have my agent associate with your call, sir.
Okay. You gonna put me on your agents list?
Yes, I have a client.
Okay.
Rudy, what did he say?
He gonna put me on his agents list. It kind of threw me off.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Was he the listing agent for the property?
He said he was.
yeah, and then I think what he said is that let me put you in touch with my other agent or something like that.
I think so.
Yeah, so it's probably his agent associate, which is everybody that, he's the main listing agent, but then he has someone underneath him that answers all the questions about the property. So he was trying to get you to go and talk with them so they could answer your questions. So, I mean, you can decide to hang up like you did, or you can, feel free to pass my information along. I'd love to answer questions, but it happens a lot. What is one thing that you guys heard in that little tidbit of a call for Rudy? Anything you pick up on?
I personally, I don't ever say off the bat that I'm an investor. I might basically tell them that I am without using the word investor. He asked you, are you a buyer? Yeah, I'm looking to potentially buy this house. What can you tell me about it?
Okay.
Something like that is going to continue the conversation, or at least flesh out a little bit more of what he's trying to do. If he's not the listing agent, he's going to say, let me put you in touch with the listing agent. That person can answer your questions for you. But anytime that I say that I'm an investor, what typically goes off in an agent's head when an investor calls after they've received?
Hey, Brian. Good morning. My name is Julio Llamas. How are you?
Good.
Good. Hey, I was calling about your property, 2181 West 1735. Is it south?
Okay.
It just so I'm an agent, but I'm also interested in purchasing your property, and I just wanted to get a little bit of information in regards to it. Again, I am an agent, but I'm an agent out here in California, so I can't see a lot of your information from your MLS. But give me a second, actually, while I pull the property up, just because since you didn't answer, I kind of moved on to it.
Let me just ask right now, is this a creative deal because it's got low equity?
You know what? It all depends. The way that we acquire properties, it's being an investor and being someone who acquires properties, it depends on my strategy, but yeah, I'm interested to hear what you got to say.
No, I'm just curious, I'm in SubTo as well.
Oh, okay.
So I assume you're in SubTo. Everyone that calls from out of state about this particular property, they're getting it like a Kevin Cho list, low equity.
Okay.
Man, my clients really
Mike Jackson list.
So if you want to send an offer, I'm more than happy to present it.
Okay.
But send me an offer. You can prop stream it and see, that there's very little equity in it. But, give us an offer. I'm just going to cut the chase and not wait.
Yeah. Okay. No,
So
hey.
you don't have to sell me on it, man. Like I already told him, I'm like, this is your best bet. Do it like this. So send me an offer. But yeah.
All right.
Present to him.
Hey, well, you know what? I appreciate, your being obviously SubTo members and, so being in the creative field. So, all right. Well, hey, so I will definitely connect with you and see how we can work on other potential deals. I mean, do you have anything else in the area?
I am going to have a screaming deal. It's going to be a luxury home, in not Lehigh. It's in Highlands, Utah.
Okay.
It's about $2 million, 2.2 million, but I think he's got a 2.75 rate on it.
Oh, nice.
And we'll need about 250,000 down on that.
Okay. All right.
Well, it's a VA loan on that one, but he's got some arrears on it.
Okay.
And so that's where we'd need to be, and why I'd need to be at the 250K down.
Okay.
But it's a hell of a property. We've actually gone in, redid the carpets, baseboards. Like, I've had a handyman in there getting everything fixed up. Like, honestly, I'm considering just buying that one for myself.
Okay. Well, you know what? I mean, I definitely entertained the property. Maybe we can JV on it or something.
Yeah, but we are not, and I'm just going to be honest with you too. If you submit an offer, like, I'm going to want hard earners money or something like that. Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm not going to, I know 90% of the people in that group are going to go out and try to assign it. I'm not looking for that. So we're not going to tie it up, get it under contract, let you go assign it to somebody else. If you want to put down hard earnest money, I'll play ball. But you've got to, I know the game.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm just going to be straight up with you because I don't want to waste time. I totally understand all the creative aspects of it. Great, go out and assign it to somebody else. That's fine. But, I've got to do right by my clients and just make sure that if we do go under contract and we take it off the market, it's going to close.
Yeah.
So.
No, I get that, So, I mean, I will definitely, I would love to connect with you. I'd love to stay in touch, especially being in SubTo and just see how we can work together. If not on these deals, on other potential deals.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
There's always,
Okay.
Good stuff. And I totally understand it. I get it. But sometimes it's just the client is a stickler of not wanting to do certain things. But I'm open for any discussions about anything. So you don't have to throw me on it, man.
So no, I get it. So, but in regards to like the client, like what is it? Is it just lack of understanding, or is it just, they're just really eager to move on to something else?
He's eager to move on to something else. I've tried to explain, and for the most part, if we sell the property, on a SubTo, most of the lenders that I work with, they need to see at least 12 months of payments before they're going to raise that from his DTI.
Okay.
So that's the biggest thing is, we can sell it. That's great. You guys can make the payments and hope you keep making the payments and everything works. But in the event that a lender says, I've got to see 12 months worth of payments, that's kind of before we can take that from the DTI. And we've done creative things in the past where we'll do a lease option, for 3 months.
All right.
And then it converts into something as long as we can prove that, hey, we're getting those payments that are coming in. Here's the lease agreement. And then it converts after he closes on his other house. I totally understand that aspect of it too.
Okay. So you know what? So to better, I mean, I completely understand what you're talking about, but some of those things I'm a little lack of, of experience on it, but let me talk to my partners, about and see if there's a way that, we can make it work, where it's a little bit, and like you said, get the 12 months of DTI, obviously, again, because I'm a little lack on the experience on that aspect. Let me talk to my partners and see what they say. And I mean, there's always a solution, and you being in SubTo, we know that it's always about taking care of the seller, making sure that, everybody's, that you're paid for, and making sure that, everything is done right so that we can do our best to protect them. So
sounds good.
All right, man. Well, definitely I'll follow up with a text, and then if you can shoot that address to me, or just, and stay in contact and connect them in SubTo, man, it'd be great.
Yeah, we've got it listed under my business partner's name right now, but it's listed as active off market.
Okay.
We're moving. I've moved brokerages already. He's moving brokerages. And as soon as we do that, we'll cancel that listing and then relist it into mine in his name, and it'll be up there. So, yeah, we'll just, as soon as I have it listed back up on the market, I'll let you know.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'll follow up with a text, man.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, man. Have a good day. God bless you. Bye-bye.
All right, guys, let's let that be our last call for today, but let's talk about it before we head on out. Julio, I'm curious, before we hear from the group, how did you feel on that phone call?
My confidence felt a little bit better. I kind of, even though I hit some stumbles, I think I was able to pivot and just kind of prolong the conversation. Obviously being in SubTo, sometimes you're like, hey, it's kind of like a common ground. So it enables to ask a little bit more questions. But I didn't know exactly how to, overcome some of his objections. Again, so that's why I refer to, well, let me talk to my partners, because, I lack that information or that experience. I just wanted to let them know that I had a backing that is, experienced in that situation.
Yeah. Good point. Don, what do you think?
I think you did good. And I saw that when he said he was in SubTo, you didn't know how to end it, right? You didn't know how to wrap that up or where to stop, right?
Yeah.
Treat it like you would any friend. At that point, I'd stop talking business and start talking shop, right?
Okay.
Because I know at that point he's being straight up with me about this property.
Yeah.
Like he knows the game, I know the game. He knows what I'm trying to do. I know what he's trying to do. It all works, right? He understands the perspective I'm calling from. Does that mean I can't ask more pointed questions like you did? No. But at that point, it's like, all right, cool. I'm done talking about this property. And I love how you pivoted into other things. But even after that, you still kind of left it more business. And I think that's what threw him a little bit, right? It's like, okay, well, I already told him that that's not going to work. Already told him X, right? So just have to be careful of balancing that a little bit. In my opinion, I could be completely off from what Mike is thinking or anybody else. But at that point, I would have pulled back and said, okay, great, man. How are things going? What else are you working on? Which is what you did. What other things you got coming up? But say, hey, what's your experience with it? How are things going for your market, right? Like just start gathering more information about him, and then how can we continue to work together, right? What do you need?
Okay.
What are you looking for? Do you have something going on right now that maybe I can help with? If not me, what about other people I know, right? Let me put you in contact. So my brain flips from, okay, I'm all business to, oh, cool, I'm here with a homie, right? Let me switch that off, and then I'll get the information I need, but I'm going to go into it a different way because we have the same ground that we're talking on.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mike, what about you?
Same. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I love having conversations, especially with experienced SubTo members. And by the way, experience doesn't mean in SubTo necessarily. It's experience outside of SubTo, because I can learn so much from them, right? Mm-hmm. So, I've been in SubTo for a long time. Maybe that person's brand new to SubTo. Don, your question was great. Tell me about your experience in SubTo. When did you join? What are you learning? What are you working on with regard to that? A question I would have asked about that one smoking hot deal is, hey, why aren't you taking that one down?
And then he said it, right? And I would have agreed with him. That's the other thing. When someone says, well, I might take it down, I'd be like, yeah, dude, you should. Like, if you were going to take this down, what would you need? Right? Because maybe he doesn't have all the funding. Maybe he does. Maybe he just needs a partner. Maybe it's whatever. Right? But again, it's pivoting no matter what, because my job at that point, when I heard that he was in SubTo, it's like, cool, how can I solve a problem to plug one of their holes, right? To keep their ship going, because ultimately that's going to come back at some point, right? Whether it's at this deal or another deal or somewhere down the line, it doesn't matter. So I know that's hard. That was one that I probably wasn't expecting to happen today, but it's going to happen a lot more. But remember, when you're with someone familiar, with someone from SubTo or someone that's experienced, don't let that rattle you. Just that gives you more opportunity to be yourself at that point, right?
Yeah.
Because now you're not talking with some stranger agent that's the big green scary monster. You're talking to someone familiar, someone on your level, someone that you're comfortable with, even though you may not know them, right? You have that commonality. So it just makes you breathe a little bit, right?
Uh-huh.
So allow yourself to do that.
It did.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's wrap it up for today. Great job today. Really interesting calls as always. It's always nice to hear different perspectives on how calls are made based on a lot of things, right? Experience, maybe where you're from, what type of career you're doing. You know, Julio, by the way, I was thinking about this. Your last name is freaking perfect for calling session.
Yeah. It's called Llamas. Call.
Love it. Love it.
Yep.
All right, guys, let's...
Well, it depends. It depends. It can be Llamas as in call, but it can also be flames.
Oh.
Okay. What about fiery phone calls?
I mean, that should be part of whatever logo you create for yourself. It's something with flames. I don't know. Maybe it's a llama with flames in it or something.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But great job, guys. All of you.
Great job. As always, our network is our net worth, right? So regardless of the community that you're in, let's all find ways to work together. So Rudy, how can people work with you and get in contact with you? What's the best way?
Either Facebook. Yeah, I'm usually on Facebook, or
cool.
My phone number. You can always call me. I'm always by my phone. So
awesome. Do you want to give that out or no?
Yeah, well, my phone number is 602-616-5880.
Myelani, if I wanted to get in touch with you to do a deal with you and hear that silky voice, how can I do that?
So I'm on Facebook as well. I'm in the free SubTo group, the creative financing group. My number is also 980-505-9212. And look forward to speaking to everyone on this call and others.
Julio, fire caller. How can people get a hold of you?
So people can get a hold of me. I'm on Facebook, Julio Llamas, and then I'm also on Instagram, julio.llamas.12. And I can be reached on my cell phone anytime, 707-567-8725.
Dawn DFW Walker, the lady who can do it all.
Yeah.
If someone want to reach out to you and work with you, how can they do that?
Really good way to reach out to me is through my Instagram. That's right there. I have this really interesting habit of when people text me, I'll read the text, respond in my mind, and then never actually hit the response button to them. So if you put it in my IG, then I know it's there and I have to look at it every time. So if you need anything, feel free to reach out to me there, ask questions. If we need to get on a phone call, happy to pass out my phone number that way. But yeah, that's how you can get a hold of me.
That makes so much sense now because I'm left on red a lot by you.
I know. I think I responded in my mind and then I actually didn't. So that's
well,
just
whatever you were going to
brain.
respond with, I'm sure was very insightful and funny if you meant to.
It was. It was. Good. Thank you.
Good. All right, guys. If you want to work with any of these people, make sure that you do reach out to them. As always, thank you so much to RocketBotLeads.ai for the data. Again, if you guys want to work with them, you can save 20% by using the coupon code dialed in 20 down below. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. The three of you, please come back. Let's make phone calls together. Let's all improve together. Great job today.
Great job, guys.
So
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
God bless you. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.